The night had
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Monday, November 1st, 2025, coming to the end of the year to the Light Gate. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. I would like to thank our sponsor for our network, Carnation. We love you guys. You've been here all the way through so far with the Light Gate, and we love you for it. Thank you very much. We have a returning guest tonight who is my favorite, and I'm just going to pass right over to Preston. Go.
Thank you, Dolly, and thank you, everyone, for joining us this lovely Monday for episode 137 of the Light Gate. I, of course, am your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. We're very excited that you could join us tonight. We are also very excited about our returning guest. We love her dearly. She is very knowledgeable. She's a huge force in this field, and I'll get to her in a very quick second. But I do love to say hello to all you folks in chat, because it's because of you we do this show and have so much fun each Monday. But my time is limited to say hello to you folks, because we really do need to get our guest on the show and start the show. But let me just say a quick hello to some of you folks here. We got Michael Kennedy. We love you, Michael. Glad you could join us. Hope you're doing really well. We have Rocco from the Sherwood Forest in Canada. Very cool. We have quite a few regulars here. Oguz Hanardik. Hello. We have Shariz Bazila.
Hello, Shariz.
Thank you for joining us. We have Olivia Escamilla. Blessings, love, and light. That's awesome.
Thank you.
The wonderful, generous, stupendous, amazing, immortal Namaste. We love you so much. Namaste. We couldn't do this show without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have Leah Omega 8. Hello, all. Hello, all. We have Lil Dove. We have Z-Sun Dragon.
Hello.
Quite a few people here. We've got There's Carbone all the way from Sydney. Yay. I love that. Patsy Foister. Amazing poetic poems with 3 hearts. Thank you, poetic poems. We love you. Sally Forth Alone. We've got Stargazer. Good evening, everyone. We have chapter 4444. Happy December 1st. Yes. This Gosh, 2025 is almost over. I can't believe it.
Did I say November 1st? Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Okay, go ahead.
Did you? I didn't catch it.
Oh my God. Okay.
Talks TV. I haven't stopped by so long. Can't. My job doesn't allow it. Oh. Well, we all do have to.
Yeah.
Randy Terrell, hello. We got Eric Peterson, 26 degrees today in Ohio.
Yes, we're freezing too. I know. It's crazy.
Marla Michaels, hello.
Hi.
Texas Cacti.
Hello. Howdy.
Doing well, we got Brian W.
Hey, Brian.
We have Joyce Aldrich. I'm going to reach out to you, Joyce. We want to get you on the show.
Yes.
Hope you're doing well, Joyce. We got Perennial Philosophy. Alalistar. Love you both. Thank you from California.
Yeah. Very cool.
I miss California. The weather there is beautiful, but I'm also loving it here in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We have Into the Future. Very cool. And let me see just a few more here real quick. Relly Assistio 658 from the Philippines. Oh, amazing.
Cool. Thank you.
It's just so cool, Dolly, how we are reaching out all over the world. It just warms my heart. Yeah, good news. Our numbers, we just heard from our producer, reached over 1 million listeners. So all you guys listening out there on the
Thank you. We really
radio stations,
we appreciate every last one of you. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We love all of you.
Thank you.
Oil painter. And Joyce says she's doing great. Nice.
Okay.
Oil painters in Michigan, by the way. Fun Talks TV. You deserve it, guys. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And shout out to Cherise for the super sticker
Thank you,
donation.
Thank you.
Love you so much, you guys. All right, I better get going. Tim Houston, second day of summer here in Oz. Not that I can tell.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
All right, wow. I'm gonna put one more up because this is so cute. Poetic poems. The only thing I put down my Preston Dennett books is for Preston.
Go.
I am honored. Thank you, poetic poems. Okay, one more. I'm sorry, Dolly. Hi from Wales, Nicola Knight.
Oh my goodness. My ancestors are from Wales. Actually.
All right, on that note, if I missed you, I'm sorry. You know I love you. You know we love you. We do need to get to our guest, who is the amazing, the irrepressible, the wonderful, super knowledgeable. Oh my gosh, there's so much she is. Cheryl Costa, researcher and author. So excited to have her back for her third appearance here on the Light Gate. Please do watch our prior shows with her because, man, oh man, does she have stories to share and so much information and some really interesting stuff tonight for sure. Let me just read her bio real quick for those of you who haven't heard of her. Cheryl wears many hats and has done many things. She is a reverend, a pagan priestess, a Tibetan Yogini, and a trans activist, a UFO columnist, a UFO researcher and author, and a novelist, and I believe a playwright as well. During the Cold War, Cheryl served in the Air Force and the Navy as a government contractor. She is a two-service military veteran, USAF and USN, and is a retired professional from the aerospace industry. As a journalist, she was a UFO columnist for the Roswell Daily Record and wrote the wildly popular UFO column New York Skies for the Syracuse NewTimes.com. That's from 2013 to 2019. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the State University of New York in entertainment writing and production. And in 2018, this is so cool, was awarded the UFO Researcher of the Year by the International UFO Congress. A really wonderful honor. She has authored dozens of books, many with her wife Linda, in a variety of genres, including a very important series of UFO reference books, providing undeniable proof that UFOs are ubiquitous. I had to look that word up. The first time I heard it, it means everywhere, being seen all over the world. So what an honor, what a delight. I'm so excited.
Cheryl.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back. Glad you're here.
Yes.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this all week. I really have.
Yeah, me too. Because we have a lot of guests on the show, but there are some that just stand out for their amazing ability to tell a story, for their humor, for their knowledge. You're definitely right there at the top of our list of guests we just adore.
Is that the usual suspects list?
Yeah.
Trust me, Cheryl, I don't say this for all our guests. We've had a few duds here and there.
Well, I've done this too. So yeah, I've had a few. Boy, I'll tell you, there was a couple that I had a chair with a sweater sitting on it, and I would have gotten more response out of the chair with the sweater than I did out of a couple of guests. Trust me. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
Excited.
Yeah.
I know you've done so much research in this field, and you've already talked quite a bit about how you've gotten to where you are today. But for those who are tuning in for the first time, because we do have a lot of new listeners, can you just give a quick rundown of who you are, where you came from, how you got involved in this field? Just a little bit to bring you people up to date to how you got to where you are today.
The short story is I think I was 8 years old, actually closer to 12. It was 1965. We were a couple of weeks before school started, so it was in the August time frame. It had been a wet year, and the corn was really high, higher than the car, as they say. We were coming down off the hill from my uncle's farm, and we were getting ready to go down. We were on a dirt road, getting ready to go down to the state road to go back to our hometown. And my mother had my father stop the car. Now, the western sky was clear blue, not a cloud in the sky. And parked out there like a rock was this big silver ball. And to give you an idea how big it is, if most people lift, hold their arm out, look at your little fingernail. That's how big it was. Okay. And my mom looked at me and says, it could be something NASA's doing. This is 65. NASA had only been around about 7 or 8 years, and we hadn't landed men on the moon yet, so they were saying, well, that might be something NASA's doing, might be something the Air Force is doing, it could be a weather balloon. And then she looked at me and says, it might be people from another world. Whoa, this was a big deal. Of course, my brother and sisters are toddlers, so they're just crawling around in the back seat. And we watched it for a few months. It didn't go anywhere. So finally, my mother had my father start the car. We got down to the bottom of the hill, turned left to go back to the hometown. And I got up. This was a big old Chevy Impala in those days. They had those big rear windows, right?
Yeah.
I got up in the window and said, "Who are you guys? Who are you guys?" And when it decided to leave, I didn't see a visual effect like this again. This was 1965. I didn't see an effect like this again until 1991 with one of the Star Trek movies when the thing goes, that little thing after it takes off,
Right.
I didn't see it. And when I saw that in the theater, I said, oh my gosh, that's like that thing in 65, it was amazing stuff. That got me very interested. I read all the books. You pick anybody from the 60s who wrote a book. I probably, if I didn't get it from the library, my mother did. And okay, for the audience that doesn't know who I am, I used to be a boy in those days. Okay, I grew up a boy. I did become a woman 37 years ago. But the bottom line is, I'd be at the barber shop, and there was a good picture. There was a good article in Argosy magazine or something like that, and I would either wait for my turn or walk across the street to the copying store, run a copy of the article, and come back and get my haircut. Sometimes it didn't make it out that way. Sometimes it was just like lately torn out and stuck in my pocket. But I brought stuff home all the time. My mother did. I did, and so I got in the Air Force. The funny thing was I joined the Air Force in 1970. I was in the bottom quarter of my high school class. Okay, we had 350 students. I'm not ashamed of this. I was in the bottom quarter. In fact, I was 35 from the bottom, 360 students. Makes it sound like I was an idiot, right? What they didn't know and what they didn't test for in the 1950s and 60s, two things they didn't test for. They didn't test for dyslexia. Okay. And they didn't test for something else associated with something like the dyslexia. Okay. And I got in the Air Force and and got in boot camp, and they ran into, they ran us all through tests and things. And they said, "Hey kid, you're dyslexic." I said, "Yeah." And then they ran me through a bunch of psych tests and intelligence tests. You got 140 IQ and you graduated in the bottom quarter of your class. And I said, yeah, all the words run together on the page. What can I say, And in more recent times, when we've learned more about neural divergence, after that, somebody took me aside at one point and said, you're a little on the neural divergence side. And I said, what does that mean? They says, well, there are people who are very focused thinkers. What were your teachers saying to you all the time in school? I said, well, the Catholic nuns say I didn't focus, and teachers in high school told me I didn't focus as well, because you're a global thinker and you think in bigger terms. You pull pieces from everywhere to make a point, versus the people who go right down the straight line. Okay. And that was my situation. And I didn't know this until many years after I was out of school.
Wow.
My English teachers wrote in my yearbook, least likely ever to pick up a pencil again.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. So if you look me up on Amazon, not Facebook and certainly not Google, but if you look me up on Amazon and type in my name, Cheryl Costa, Cheryl with a C, Costa with a C, you'll get slammed with about 60 books. Okay. Now, not all of them, some of them were plays, some of them were, 53 of them were about UFO statistics, and right now,
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm a combat veteran and a Navy veteran, Navy Cold War service, nuclear submarines, that kind of thing. I have a lot of PTSD. So the VA shrinks about 2 years ago asked me, he says, well, you're a writer, you write, right? And I said, I write short stories. I might write a one-act play now and then. And they said, well, you ever thought about writing a novel? I says, I wrote one and it was for college. That was it. Because that's a lot of work. Okay. That's a lot of work. But she says, why don't you approach your PTSD from a cathartic writing standpoint? So this was the first book we did last year called The Second Oldest Profession. And it's about the 1990s and being a transgender spy in the 1990s for our side, of course. All right. Well, that one did so good. Who knew anybody would love a spy book about a transgender field officer? Who knew that people would like that, So the fans came back to me, a whole bunch of fans says, would you tell us her first assignments were in the 1980s? Why didn't you write about that? And all I did in the first book was write half a dozen short stories, a novella-length story, and a novel-length story, all in this book. And it's only about an inch thick. This is the second one because my VA shrink said, do it again. This time, why don't you go ahead and write about all that stuff in the 80s you've been telling me about? So this is called the Impossible Gal. There were three of us in the service, in the intel services. We were all used to be boys, okay, and we got to be femme fatales. In my case, femme fatale in an African seaport. Speaking
I
to
love
all
the
those,
the cover, by the way.
Wow.
Oh, you like that? You liked it? I wanted it because I was dealing with the Soviet, the Red Fleet's 5th Squadron in the Mediterranean. Okay, I wanted it to reflect like a good Soviet rah-rah poster. And first time the AI gave it out to me, I described it for AI. And boy, they made her a really tiny femme fatale. And I said, I need her a little bit more athletic to look more like what I might have looked like at that time. Okay. And it gave it to this and it came out just the way I wanted it, her holding the big flag. In fact, it says her first undercover mission. Okay.
Wow.
And this was the cover identity in those days was Miss Svetlana Kachkina, formerly of Sergei Prozad in the Moscow Oblast. That means an oblast in Russia is like a county or province. Okay. And this book is twice as thick as the first book. and it reads like a journal, time stamped. It reads like a journal.
Wow.
My spouse, who is my publisher, and she read it 4 times. The first time she read it, let me say it this way. With the first book, The Second Oldest Profession. Oh, by the way, the second oldest profession is the intelligence business. The first oldest profession is prostitution. And the second oldest profession has less morals than the first. Okay. So she came into me after I gave her that manuscript and we take an afternoon nap. We're retired folks. She laid down next to me and out of nowhere, she speaks to me. We've at this point been married 18 years. And she looks at me and she says something to me in Russian. And I looked up at her and I answered her in Russian. She said, we've been together for 18 years. I never knew you could speak Russian. Okay. So,
wow.
Oh yeah, baby. So since that time, if now that we got a new book coming out, if you were to ask her, does she speak just Russian? She will now look at you and say, she has spoken to me in at least 7 languages, given me morning greetings in at least 5. And oh, by the way, she gives me, besides giving me morning endearments, bonjour, madame, that type of thing, I also greet her similarly in Russian. And if someone asks me about my wife, and if I'm too close to the writing I'm doing, I'll look at them and say, Moyashna, which means my wife in Russian, So this is the new book. It's not out on Amazon just this minute. We had a little bit of a production problem. Something got goofed up in the PDF that we sent in with the new cover because the book is so thick, we had to redo the artwork. And what happened there is it blew up on Friday when Linda uploaded it. So I got to correct something with the artwork, and we'll ship it back in. And we think it'll be released in the next 2 weeks. It'll be available on Amazon, Kindle, and paperback. Okay. And
Nice.
Let me know when it does, and I'll put something up on the net through us so all our people know it. Okay.
Well, okay. One thing Linda said, I've had some very interesting comments about it. From my test readers, betas, they went bananas over it. Both of my primary test readers read it 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
Linda's had it 3 times. And the first time she read it, she came back to me and she said, it is an absolute mine, F-U-C-K. So I rattled her a lot. And
I'm getting some questions about it already. Carl Mids is asking, any UFOs in it?
Yet. Actually, the American movies have the actor say net. No, the word is net, N-E-T. Okay,
right.
Net.
And about the title, The Impossible Gal.
The Impossible Gal.
How did you come up with the title?
The spy agency that hired us did. They told me when they hired me coming out of the Navy, I had electronic analysis, signals analysis, that kind of background, and in language school. So they invited me. But when they invited me in for the interview, I had just walked out of personnel at the submarine base, and I was now technically a civilian, but still in the reserves, so to speak. And I was introduced to them, and he pulled open an envelope, pulled out a couple of 8x10 black and white pictures. This is you coming out of a private psychiatric clinic in 1975, and this is 1980. He's talking to me, and he says, this is you. I says, were you following me around? Oh, no. Everybody who has something to hide from the military, the Navy, or the Army base, they go up there to talk about their drug problem, their alcohol problem, their problem with their wife, or something else. And then the second guy looks at me and he says, so do you really want to become a woman? He says, you're going to become a second-class citizen, And I thought, oh my God, you're going to take my clearance away from me or something like this, And they said, no, he'd like you to come to work for us. And I said, wait a minute, you guys are all Princeton, Yale, and Harvard guys. You could never, in my wildest dreams, hire somebody like me, some crazy trans queer person like me who's going to go through a gender change in the next 5 to 10 years. That would be absolutely impossible. And the first guy, the older guy, snow white hair. It turned out he was the site manager. He says, no, that would be absolutely impossible. And the second guy looks at me and says, but it'd be the most fantastic cover because no one could ever believe that you could work for us. And by the way, I says, so am I a guinea pig here? And he said, oh, no, there's 2 others before you. So there's 3 of you impossible gals working for us.
There you go.
That's amazing. Y'all did well.
It was quite the adventure, trust me. And that's why I'm at the Veterans Administration
all the time.
And with the shrink 3 times a month, because here's the deal. Here's the little secret I'll tell you. And this is what the Impossible Gal, the theme of it is. In fact, I dedicated it to the shrink. Okay. And the deal is that when you have to carry a field agent, if you're impersonating somebody for a day, a couple of days, or a weekend, it's not that big a deal. It's like doing live action role play or cosplay. Okay. But when you have to do it for 6 months, a year, or 2 or 3 years, it's method acting at the extreme. Okay. Even people who do heavy method acting, deep, long-term television series covers, that type of thing, or long runs of a play, those actors get so deep into that character, it's like pulling rusty nails out of a board to get that character out of your head.
It's almost like
Wow.
a dual personality, an alter, you know?
Yeah,
Wow.
there's an informal term for it.
Mhm.
It's post-traumatic. It's not in the. It's not in the DMs. It's not in the DSM. Okay,
Okay.
but post-traumatic stress syndrome. Basically, not being able to get that character out of your head. After I was out of that Algiers assignment, that her assignment was in Algiers for a year. Okay, and basically serving drinks to the Soviet sailors and listening to their troubles and any gossip she could pick up and reporting it home on the teletype every night.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Kind of a fun job, actually. I was the grand hostess and I even debuted in a Valentino gown.
Oh, God.
Oh, I'm almost back down to that weight right now because I've been losing weight and I'm almost on deck. I was looking in the mirror about 4 weeks ago, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, "Oh my God, I'm seeing Mashenka's and Svetlana's cheeks. Holy goodness, you know." So it's been an adventure. I guarantee you, it's a lot. This book is a lot of fun, but it will make you think deep because I let you into her head a lot, talking about, are they reading me? And I give the protagonist not my name, but Moira Stewart. And Moira says, are they reading me or are they reading Svetlana? Okay, you're always back here. You're the mind and the soul behind the mask. And that mask is a difficult thing to put down. Okay, so the story deals with the psychological trauma of living that lie for a year or two.
Wow, I've
Okay.
never heard people talk about this. That's amazing when you think about it. And I like that term, post-traumatic stress disorder.
No,
Dramatic stress.
Dramatic.
With a D.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome is the bombs and bullets and things like that stuff. I had plenty of that from Vietnam, but I was a combat soldier in Vietnam, for those who want to know. Yes, I was. And you who's putting Cyrillic up. How sweet of you. Thank you. I'm not going to read that to anybody, but
Michael.
Okay.
I don't know what that says.
I'm not going to bother with it. The bottom line is it's a very adventurous story, a lot of fun. And I guarantee you're not going to go through it in a night. Okay. It took my spouse, 3-4 weeks to read it. And she's a heavy reader. She can go through it because it's dense. It's got a good story to tell. And if you like chess, hey, in those days, I was a bit of a chess savant, and chess is in this story. Trust me.
Right.
Now, in some cases, we got the moves in there, you know. So I had a lot of fun writing all that.
I'm excited to read it. So,
want to talk about UFOs?
Well, first, here's my question: Was it cathartic? Did it work in terms of helping you get over the what do you call it? Post-traumatic stress, the PDS?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I can honestly tell you there have been times in fact, I put a thing in the dedication on this thing. I said the cathartic writing here led to more fruitful time on my psychiatrist's couch. Okay. Let me say it this way. Has it cleared it all up? No, not 100%. But getting it off my chest, talking about it in the context, because when she first met me, if she asked me about the Mashenka was the cover for the first book, okay, and that's in the 90s. If they asked me about Mashenka, I would slip into her accent.
Yeah.
Okay. Or broken English. So it's goofy like that. I'll give you one. I'm over at the health. I've since moved I've got some ailments that the VA has to deal with. Okay. I've since moved all my health care over to the Veterans Administration in the last 2 months. Okay. And, but when I was still over at one of the civilian healthcare companies here in where we live here in Ohio, with this older lady almost started to fall down. She's like hanging on the wall. I got up to grab her and she starts talking to me. And it's essentially what I'm going to call Southern accent Russian. That's essentially, that's Ukrainian. Okay, that's Ukrainian. Okay, and there's a difference. Okay, what's the difference in the Russians? Okay, there's an accent every place you go in Russia. Okay, you've got the pure Russian, and then you've got accents for the other provinces, or what the Tsar used to call the other Russias. You know,
colloquialisms. Yeah.
Just like in the U.S.
Yeah.
Southern drawl, so to
So
speak.
that's exactly it. That's how I explain it to people. It's the difference between, in fact, in the first book, I describe it to a British diplomat. It's the difference between speaking English in Boston and speaking English in rural Georgia.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's the difference. And Gorbachev, after he became first secretary, became a situation with him. He had a southern accent. The northern accent, Russians from Moscow north thought he was a country bumpkin because the Ukrainians had integrated the pronunciation of some of their letters from their native tongue into the way they speak the Russian down there.
Yeah.
So what would happen is, because certain letters were pronounced differently, the words were pronounced differently. Okay, and it was a bit of a problem. And I ran into that. When I was in Ukraine in the 80s. So
I feel okay, because I'm trying to understand this, and I have a little bit of maybe a correlation to it, not anything like what you experienced, but a touch.
let me qualify. I was never there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Never there. Okay. So when I'm with certain others than here, all grays, they have a language that they speak orally. They can speak. Okay. And it is, I was taught very early this language. Okay. And when you're thinking to them mentally, sometimes they'll utter the word because it adds flavor to the mental transmission of what they're saying to you. Okay. It slows the sentence down or the paragraph, because they'll drop tons of information all at once psychically. But if they want you to pay attention to one particular thing, they'll start dropping their language into it orally. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
There's a similar thing with, like, say, okay, in Algeria, we were speaking French day to day. If the Russian customers came into the Leningrad tap room of Algiers, okay, there was a handful of us there. Some were former Russian expatriates, some people like me trained, but nobody knew I was trained. They thought I was the gangster's daughter from the Bratva. Basically, your French, you picked up things the longer time you were there. And I've had literally people when I would speak, even now, if I speak any French out there at all, it's not as good as it used to be. I've had people say, wait a minute, was that an Arabic or a Berber word I heard in there in the middle someplace? It's the same sort of thing. Yeah, there's a little mixture of stuff.
Yeah. So what happens is I live dual lives like you did. Okay. I have two identities. I have my identity with them. I have my identity here. I live two lives. Okay. And it's like drama for me to be here versus there. It's less drama there, more drama here. And when I was younger, I would slip into who I am, actually who I really see myself as with them. Okay. Because I had more time with them than I did here. And I had to learn to be very careful. Now I'm an adult. I'm older. I have a child of my own, stepchild as well. And I can understand what that the stress of what that does to you. Sometimes it comes through to me in very private, weird ways. And I literally talk to myself sometimes. It's like, get over it. You're fine. Get over it. And I have to be careful what I say here, literally all the time. And so Preston gets bombarded with the nut girl, the crazies when they're coming out of me. And I have nowhere else to go with it because I can't find a therapist for this. What am I going to say to them? Don't put me in, they'll lock me up. Literally lock me up. I would be called delusional, nuts, psycho, schizophrenic, whatever. And so I keep it to myself. And yeah, I'm not doing it right now, but yeah, I keep it to myself mostly. And
there was a question in the stream here. The Russians thought it was us And we thought it was either Russian. We've been told it's the Russians or the Chinese, which is neither of the cases. And that's not coming from my field experience. Okay. I was as blind to that as everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
But I did have kind of a touch with it in the first book. That I had. Sometimes you get a job. A lot of the work, if I was in the States, it was working, we'll say, at the Russia desk. It's like the State Department. And I got to read Pravda every day, make notes about it. Oh, hey, this so-and-so's in the obituary. Say, wasn't he a spy for the, that kind of stuff. And you read all their social magazines and things like this. Russia, Soviet Today, that type of thing. And it's funny. My wife is still a part-time librarian. She was a career librarian, and every now and then she'll bring home a Cyrillic magazine for me to read, just to keep me sharp, Yeah. But the bottom line, those things slip in there. How you talk to someone. I'll give you an example. I've had friends of mine that would come here, and if they catch me, they come to the apartment while I'm working, or they come to visit Linda while I'm working. I'm sitting here typing away or sitting here writing pen to paper away, and you'll hear me muttering in Russian, okay, or swearing in Russian, and you have not been cussed out until you've been cussed out in Russian. Trust me. They've got some great lines, and it's weird. And the Russians do have a really, really good sense of humor, and there's a very strong, something I must say about them, they have a very strong, one of the worst cuss words you can use, and they got some great ones. Okay.
Okay. What?
The Russian word translates to bastard, because they take the idea of family very seriously.
Yeah.
Even in some large families where maybe one of the cousin brothers, went out and sowed his wild oats and things like this.
Yes.
If given the opportunity, they will treat that love child as equal as any other member of the family, because it's still blood, and that's their mindset. Right. So that word, the ubildak, is not such a word you use loosely. It's really, really offensive in Russian.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about other UFO stuff and things like that?
Yeah, we better get to UFOs because some of the people are asking.
Yes.
Let's talk UFOs.
By the way, the Impossible Gal, we expect it to be out before the end of December. Okay.
Yeah. So. And I'm glad you took the steps to make sure it was perfect, because, as a writer, I know those little mistakes that come up and you're like, delay, get it right.
It was running clean. Where the mistake was if you don't get the pages numbered right.
Yep.
A page is supposed to be right in front of you, like the title page is suddenly over here on the left, on the back side of another page, that kind of stuff. And there was a mistake like that. And then we caught the prose itself was fine, but there was a problem with the alignments of the artwork, the barcode, the box where the barcode gets printed by them. I had skewed it somehow. And the automation picked up on that, and they sent it back, and they said, "This is what you got to fix." I said, "Okay, fine, great." So I'll get around to it.
Okay.
Formatting. Justin hates formatting. He really does. Yeah.
Can I give you first? I talked about my wife. Can I tell you what she's up to right now? Because I'm not writing any more UFO books. I wrote 53 of them, plus wrote a weekly newspaper column. People say to me, "Must be fun to write a UFO column every week," for a newspaper. I did it for 7 years, and that is basically an 800-word term paper every Thursday. Okay.
God bless you.
I had lots of fun doing it. And amazingly enough, I have a collection of all my articles here in book form. The paperback version on Amazon is called the UFO Beat, newspaper beat, that type of thing. And I consult my own stuff sometimes when somebody quickly wants me to answer something, because I can't hold it all in my head. But sure. Linda is she is our scholar in this household. Okay. She's got the master's degree.
Ooh.
Okay. And she worked for major libraries in Washington, D.C. for a career. Okay, she has worked in NASA. She has worked at the she was the head librarian of the Environmental Protection Agency's toxicology library for 15 years. Okay, not a stupid chick, trust me. Okay, so currently I'm being sort of a muse and a consultant to Linda. In fact, she's asked me to write her preface in the book. Okay, it's about UFOs. And the book essentially is this. It's the intersection between ufology and the war between the sexes. Okay. Okay, so it covers historical, psychological, evolutional, sociological, anthropological, stuff. And she's being the resident scholar. She goes out, I write something, I go out and get 3-4 books just to refresh me. Preston, I got a couple of your books. I'll refresh myself on some of this stuff. No. The dining room table's over there. It's got in excess of 45 books. Some she bought, some she borrowed, and others that other people gave her when she mentioned what she was working on. So this is where it is, and it is a deep study grounded in everybody talks about UFOs. All they want to talk about is the technology. Technology this, technology that. Wow, maybe we'll learn how to do the warp bubble like they do, It's always like that. No, her book is a deep study grounded in the humanities and grounded in science, a mix of both. Okay, and some of the science scares us. We would sit there and have tea every day at about 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'd sit on the floor on a pillow and listen to what she was saying. She's up in her big overstuffed chair, and there wasn't a single one of those days I would go in to talk to her that she did not scare the living snot out of me with what she was thinking and making notes about.
You're blowing my mind. You want to know why?
Why?
Well, I deeply want to know the answer to this now, and she's probably talked to you about it, apparently. Do you know that most pilots for ET are female? Not male.
Stop.
And there's a reason why.
Yes.
And it's basically, the statistics bear itself out in the human population as well. Okay.
Yes, let's not go there.
I know.
I know exactly what you're thinking.
Yes. I've been asked once or twice, why are you a female flying for them if you're a pilot? And why do we have more male pilots here? And I'm like, not exactly true. Not worldwide. No. And yes, mostly females fly for ET. Mostly female. Okay. Very few male.
Is that true on the ET side as well?
Yes.
I'm telling you, yes, absolutely.
And not just
she knows the truth about that.
Representatives
I am now impressed.
Talk to your ladies friends.
Well,
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that, because the UFO field has been male dominated for a while. It's not anymore.
On our side of it. Yeah, on the human side of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
but
it's a lot worse than people think it is. And I'll make it one comment, and I don't want to blow the part we're going to talk about, but the UFO documentary. But about the same time that they were ragging on Lou Elizondo and trying to discredit him, a handful of us, particularly the women researchers, started getting leaned on as well. Okay, or suddenly we're not being invited to conferences. Suddenly we're not being invited to podcasts. Okay. So this is the first podcast I've done in almost 2 years. So it's been shaky. But roughly what Linda's talking about. But she is putting a scholared book. I joked one day, I said, wow, you're going to be right up there with Dolan. She says, I'm surpassing Dolan.
Thank you. I agree with her assessment. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when it comes out, I'm going to send her some money. Will you send me, Linda, a copy signed? Because I'm going to read that book before anything else I get when that book hits.
We'll get an advance copy to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have you back on the show.
Have her on the show by herself. Believe me, she'll blow your socks off.
Absolutely.
You're scaring the living snot out of me.
For years, it was just Ann Druffel and Idabel Epperson and just a few, but it's grown. The army.
Patty Moon Howe,
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's just a
But
handful.
now we have Barbara Lamb and Yvonne Smith and Edith Fiore.
Yeah.
And, it's growing. It's getting better.
It's getting better. It is getting better.
So I'm glad to see that. So that should be a really interesting and very important issue that people need to address, which has never been addressed. So
not the way, believe me, not the way she thinks about it. And also the question has come up. Why are they doing the abductions? Why is ET doing the abductions the way they've been doing it? And you ever notice that the male researchers, whenever they interviewed some woman who got taken and maybe had her eggs taken or something like this, or she got called back to there and she got to meet the little fusion aliens with human and off-world DNA, the researchers always blew off what they were saying, because remember, Preston, you're not going to follow this. I know Dolly knows where I'm coming from. People ask me what the most painful part of my gender change surgery was. And my answer typically is to them, when they put the straw in my brain and it sucked out 30% of my brain. Okay. The meaning was because suddenly I seemed like, to everybody's opinion, particularly men, it seemed as if, gee, Cheryl had that crazy operation. She's a good engineer. Why we can't trust her judgment anymore, can we? I mean, it's like I lost 60 points of IQ between the time I stopped wearing pants to work and started wearing dresses to work. Okay, that's the thing. The patriarchy has been a problem. Right. I can't get into it deeper than that. I don't want to spoil her thunder.
Okay, we won't then. Okay, I agree.
Very exciting.
We'll let her speak for herself. And I can't wait to just say important.
All right.
It is important.
So
thank God we're the public. Thank God we own the publishing company.
Yes.
She's 51% owner and the senior editor.
That's
and
awesome.
We've got control because nobody else is going to want to publish this.
Oh my God.
Well, being a pioneer is never easy.
Oh, it never is. It never is. Okay, would you like to know? Let's talk about that darn documentary.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do that. I would
it.
love to do that. Yes.
This is supposed to be the documentary that ended the UFO cover-up. What's it called now? The Age of Disclosure.
Yes.
So yeah, Dolly and I watched it. I had high hopes for it, but I kind of knew, given where it was coming from and who was in it, what it was going to be about.
Okay.
And initially, I was impressed. I'm like, wow, these are some important people talking about an important subject in a serious way.
Top men.
Yeah.
Mostly
all men, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, initially, I mean, from first glance, I'm like, this is interesting. This is I like that it was being discussed in an important way. But if you watch it more.
Yeah. Okay, now we come back. We all, the three of us, come back, and probably some of your listeners come from a longer history with the UFO stuff. Okay, and for years we used to hear the man or woman on the street. Oh, I'll believe it when somebody prominent in the government stands up and talks about it. Because if you listen to Mr. Astronomer Tyson guy and a few of these other people, they will tell you they simply can't get here from there. Well. Yeah, what I saw in that program, the way they were talking, Putoff was talking about that stuff. I said, he owned up to it. Because I've known about that technology for 15 years. I'm sitting there saying, this is good. This is good. Okay, is it what the rest of us have been waist deep in this stuff has been? Sorry, I've been having some strange problems with my earplugs. VA just fitted me with hearing aids. Okay. And so it's played hell with the way my earplugs run. We've been looking at this thing a certain way for a long time, and we really, truly want them to really show us what you got. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Simple.
The problem is that, like the one guy in the documentary said, well, they surveyed, well, can't we just tell everybody about this? And they found out just how big a problem it would be to just drop it on everybody cold. Okay. Psychological, theological, sociological, every kind of logical you can possibly think of, it would not be a good thing to do it all at once. So this documentary in my book was a great 101 or 102 course. Okay. This gets the average person. I've heard people talk about it who've watched it up on Amazon and say, oh, that's what you've been talking Greek to us about for years, Cheryl. Duh. Okay. So this is the deal. I think it's a good 101. More is coming. I sent copies of the pink book.
Right. Yeah.
To prominent. Rubio got one right before it was available on the street. Rubio got one. Schumer got one. Gillibrand got one. And a couple of the guys on the House side of the permanent select committees for intelligence. All those people were on those, the Senate and the House side intelligence things, and they got copies of this book. Burkhart's office contacted me through a friend of a friend and said, could you give us a 17-page summary? And I went into the PDF copy of that pink book and pulled my general summary out, and I sent that down to him with a specialized page put in there just for Tennessee. Okay. So, and then suddenly everybody got quiet. Everybody got quiet.
Yeah, well, I got a funny feeling you went directly against their narrative. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, and it's like they talk about the legacy people. We know what those guys are like. They're just lots of fun at a poker game, and they're absolutely horrible at tea. I mean,
I don't know. It's my opinion, and it's my opinion that the reason that disclosure is so hard for them is threefold. The first two I won't mention. The third one I will. The third one is that if they did ever come out and just lay it on the line with everybody and let the chips fall where they may, they would have to be guaranteeing their own amnesty against humanity. Because if we knew 100% what the real truth was of what they knew and when they knew it, we would be going after them in seconds. That's how bad it would be.
As we usually say, "Da tavorish." Yes, comrade.
Yes.
Yes. The part of it is when it's like the old line of the man who comes up to his wife and says, honey, I've had an affair going for 15 years. And the second question, the American people come back and say, what else have you been lying to us about? Yeah. That's what this is about. This is what it amounts to. Okay. Yep. And they're going to have to either declare immunity on all these people.
Right.
Okay. Before they can come out completely. And yes, that whole bit about the president being considered a temp, the guys in Congress being considered temps, and it's our job. There's a beautiful term I learned from one of the Doctor Who episodes. They were talking to some of the British secret servants, and they said, how come nobody else seems to know about this? I said, well, we're the British secret servants. We're the cockroaches. We're here. The prime ministers, they come and go, but we're always here. We know about 4, 5, 6, so that kind of thing. And this is what we're up against. Truman was smart in the sense that he did hand it over to deep into the CIA because, again, this is then World War II. Everybody was war worry. They didn't want, like they said in the thing, boy, he took the quote right out of my mouth. If you tell your friends, your enemies are going to surely know.
Right.
And we found that out with the British. They were so freaking infiltrated by the Soviets, it was ridiculous. So the bottom line on all of it, as far as I'm concerned, they're going to have to give some people some serious amnesty to come out and really tell the truth about it. And that's also like George, the senior Bush, said when somebody asked me when he came out of the CIA, ask him about the stuff he knows, he said, you can't handle the truth. Okay.
No, they can't.
And the one thing I do appreciate in the documentary, how much was handed off to civilian contractors and part of the military industrial complex. Okay. And that is I think the part that scares the snot out of me, that it's under the control, parts of that are under control of a lot of people who only worry about the money.
Yeah.
Aren't worried about our national security. I'm a patriot. I served in 2 military services and then some. Okay. And I worry about our national security. I know an awful lot of capitalists that aren't worried about our security.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
Sure.
I think one of my main complaints about the documentary was that they painted this in a very fear-based way in terms of ET. And using that term, this is a national security threat to humanity, was, I think, disingenuous. Because I think these people know that ETs are not here to, hurt, harm, take over, or anything like this. And to talk about pushing for a cover-up, when basically these are the same folks who've been riding along with it for a very long time.
They've been with us since the Garden of Eden, for God's sakes. Come on.
Exactly.
They're not our problem. The fact that they can fly circles around everything we've got in the air, yeah, so what?
Yeah,
So
I can
what?
see from a military perspective. Yeah,
they've been looking after us. They've been shepherding us for eons. I'm not worried about them as much. Oh, they say there are some excuse the expression, we'll figuratively call them some Klingons, but the deal is that the enemy is here on this planet. And to quote Steve Bassett, our culture is addicted to war.
Yes.
Correct.
And this is the threat is our own people. We're the people that nuked a couple of Japanese cities. We're the people who put people in gas chambers in Germany. We're the people who did purges in Stalin's Russia in the 30s. Okay, we're the Pol Pots who killed all those people in Cambodia. Okay, that's we're the threat, not them. And I think if they don't want us off this rock with the kind of technology they're flying with, it's probably because we don't want you Earth people off that damn rock because we don't want you eating our relatives.
Yeah.
At least the folks I talked to from up there.
If they hadn't painted the UFO phenomenon in such a fear-based way, I would have been more inclined to recommend this documentary to people. But that was a huge mistake, and I feel intentionally done.
It's a giant false flag is what it is, and they're aiming for something. That's what I mean by the narrative.
It's called more funding. We got to have more funding for the defense industry, my friend. That's what that is about. Gee, if we got a threat, then we can ask for more money to build bigger things, bigger boom booms. That's what this is about. Okay.
Yeah, and they're still not talking about the fact that people are having direct contact.
Yeah, they didn't even talk about that.
No, they wouldn't let me near that congressional experience for all they're worth. Not a zero. Okay, would never happen. I fixed my face for it. It's like, okay, well, I don't need to go there anyway. I don't want to. But it's ridiculous is what it is.
Linda and I got called. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead. It's true.
Linda and I got called in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody knew COVID was coming. Okay. Nobody knew COVID was coming. So guys like Steve Bassett and like that down in DC, and the usual suspects down there trying to get disclosure, said, hey, you gals are the only people who have ever gone out and published the numbers. Okay. Would you be willing to testify before Congress? And so let Linda and I talk about that. Remember, we were technically contractors down there for 32 years. Okay, at least in my case, her longer, almost 40. Okay, so our conversation was, and when we went back to them, we says, look, we spent most of our careers trying not to testify before Congress. That's the honest truth, and that can be almost as dangerous as having somebody following you around.
Exactly.
Linda had people, press people coming, trying to get her to give them a good interview. And the right people heard about it. She had left the EPA and was working at NASA Goddard. and they got to him and they fired her.
Oh,
Okay, somebody had been doing this stuff for 40 years and only been over at NASA Goddard about 6 months. And they were doing screwy things like, you know, who runs the library? Oh, you know, never did they talk about the fact that the Apollo tapes are missing because the archives got taken over by the people who managed the motor pool.
Right.
Oh my God, I don't believe I said that on an open line. Oh my goodness. But that's the truth. And she blew a whistle on him. So what happened was there was a reporter, one of two reporters that survived being killed down at Jonestown back a long time ago. You know, whatever his name was. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was still working at the LA Times at the time. We couldn't get the Washington Post or any of the East Coast papers to talk to her about what was going on. This is Bush W's administration trying to close the EPA and all this stuff. Okay. And somebody reached out to her, would you be willing to talk to the people from Los Angeles Times? She said reluctantly, sure, but there's going to be boundaries. And she had done several interviews leading up to it. And then she got fired from NASA. Not because she was talking to this guy, but for these other idiots. And she came home that night and says, well, I'm supposed to talk to James tonight. I said, well, technically you don't work for the contractor or the government anymore. Take the gloves off. And she says, that's my intention. And she sat in there on the bedroom bed and talked to him for the better part of 2.5 hours. And it was a 3,600 expose in the Los Angeles Times when it came out.
Wow.
She'll never work in DC again. Okay, although
is that a bad thing?
Although there's California senator, I can't remember her name, very famous senator, called her up personally and said, "We need more people like you in DC. Would you consider coming back?" You know, but we both had it. Trust me.
Dianne Feinstein.
Feinstein. No, not Feinstein. No, there was another one.
Barbara Boxer.
Boxer.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting stuff. The bottom line is there's a lot of people in the UFO community know stuff. Lots of people in the government do not know stuff. And it's like these people, Lou and Alessandro and I had coffee a couple of times at a couple of conferences, and he knew I was press. I told him everything I was talking with him about was off the record. And we both realized that the whole shenanigans that were being played we're probably going to play on an off-world threat or something on that order. Yes. And they don't, I mean, he couldn't even get the stuff up to Secretary Gates, for God's sakes, because the religious right was, you know, oh my God, we can't touch the demons, you know, and this stuff. We've got some informational problems in the government, and these problems need to be solved, or people's heads need to roll, one or the other. Okay. And we need to have a straight dialogue. We don't have to necessarily put what we know about the technology out there on the picnic table for anybody. Yeah. But we need to have a straight dialogue with the American people, so the people like us who are doing research aren't laughed at by everybody down the street in our neighborhood.
I agree about that. We need a clear picture of the entire truth, not just blinder truth. Okay, blinder's truth. We need the entire picture, because there's more going on than just ET, way more on this planet and our solar system everywhere. And it nobody really wants to do that. Nobody, you know, those that are trying to bring that out are being attacked. And what's the word? Preston, you know what it means. Disinformation. They create disinformation about them. They're trying to get them off the thing. And now I see a direct response to them not being able to get rid of them by others saying the direct opposite of what they're saying. They're coming out and putting other people on the internet, other people in the news. You know what I'm saying? It's like he said, she said, he said, you know, and everybody's got their bloody take on things the way they are. And you can't be right. I'm right.
Let me give you a flavor on something. Okay. One of the few times I owned up to being intelligence. Okay.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, in my day job with that kind of work, I did not have any direct connections. I was not like Lou. I was plugged into something like ATIP or anything like that. Okay. I was a signal specialist. I was information intelligence. Okay. That was it. Nothing exotic. And I didn't work at Spookworks, even though my day job was Lockheed Martin. Okay. In fact, I was in the IT division of Lockheed Martin. It was the largest Microsoft network on the planet. Okay. Yeah. That's all I can tell you about it. Okay. But the bottom line is this. The last talk I did down at Eureka Springs in Arkansas, I was the last speaker of the day. And I have a slide because we were already starting to hear some of this anti-trans rhetoric out there. Mm-hmm. And I put a slide in. I put 2 extra slides in. And one of the slides had a picture of me in my Air Force combat gear. It had a picture of me standing next to a periscope inside the submarine. Okay. And of course, then it also had pictures of me as my feminine persona was growing over the years, you know. Mm-hmm. And I use it to teach doctors now. This is what a transition looks like. It takes time. Okay, it's not like Mr. Trump says something that happens during recess. Okay, this is something that took me 10, 12 years. Okay, but I showed that and I said, see this picture here at the periscope. I was a signals analyst. That means I did intelligence work. I've been trained in analyzing intelligence information. How do you think I wrote 53 books about UFO statistics? Okay. My math teachers were calling up, and when the first white book came out, I had people calling me up. It came out in the New York Times, calling me up. Hadn't talked to them in 40 years since we got out of high school, and said, Costa, you were flunking math all through high school. How did you produce a book on statistics? You know? Okay. Yeah. But we didn't know about the dyslexia and all this stuff. Yeah. The bottom line on this is this. I said that stuff on there, and of course, their tapes of these presentations go up on YouTube. It was on a podcast sometime later, about 3 months later, and someone said, I've seen that podcast of you explaining that and saying, here, I've got this intelligence background. This is why I know how to analyze the data the way I do. And they've edited it and taken it off. That whole little portion that where you admit to having been an intelligence gatherer on a nuclear submarine, photographic and electronic.
Right.
It's been taken out. And that was about the same time, suddenly a whole bunch of us started being non grata. Yeah, somebody's got a finger on it. And it was about the same time Lou Alessandro, they went out of their way to try and discredit him, saying he didn't work for ATIP, things like that. It was all right about the same window of time.
It's a very carefully orchestrated cover-up, an enormous amount of time, money, and energy and intelligence being put forth to muddy the waters. I'm personally for catastrophic disclosure. Let's let it all out, explode the truth, because in my mind, secrecy breeds so many more problems. And yeah, like you said, we don't need to know every darn thing. You know,
even ufologists are screwed up from all of this. Half of them don't know the truth, and they're
that's exactly the problem.
It's not true. Yeah,
people are stating their opinions as facts.
Right. There's no consensus of factual data. That's what the problem is. You know.
Yeah, we need to get to a point where truth and transparency is respected, and I don't think our governments are ever going to tell the truth on this, ever.
ET doesn't think they're going to tell the truth. I've been told flat out, straight from the mouth of ET.
They don't. No,
they're never going to do it.
No,
you don't believe it.
No, there's no more money. Too many butts hanging out in the wind. Okay, let me tell you something. Most stuff in the government, military type stuff, gets declassified in 10, 12, 15 years, 30 years on the outside on the really sensitive stuff. But all my books were talked about in a fictional context. I had to do it that way. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Because I can't mention real names. I couldn't even mention my real name in there because they classify names of operatives and field officers for upwards of 50 years. Yes. That's why only a few years ago did we find out the actual name of the dead body they for the Operation Mincemeat. Okay.
I have no problem with that. That's understandable, and I think
It only
there's
took 12.
good reasons for it.
It protects
Oh,
whole
yeah.
families.
But also, people are living longer. See, they used to think, 50 years probably be dead, but people are living longer, and that's an issue. But the bottom line is you do try to protect people. Okay. I had in the first book, they refer to a character in the first book, Ani Gisov. Okay. The field officer that portrayed her in real life passed away last January. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And none of us found out for almost 6 months. Okay. So you can get an idea how that works. Okay. So a lot of my colleagues and comrades, they have passed away. Okay. So,
Wow.
but the thing is, we try to protect them. The secrets are the most fleeting. And you know what I said in this second book about secrets? It's not about the military secrets. It's not about the politics. It's not about who's doing what to who. The deepest, most nasty secrets are those that are held by the field officers themselves. Things they know, things if they ever breathe the word of it, could destroy it, might destroy dozens and dozens of people, might destroy an entire line of field operatives. Hell, it could destroy a city. Who knows? But the point is, the stuff we know, as they say with things like gossip, it can be a very, very poisonous thing. And that's the problem with this whole thing with UFOs. There's too many people who did have a leg on the inside when numerous presidents of the United States did not. Okay.
Yeah.
They say Carter, when he got his briefing, he laid his hands in his face in his hands and cried like a baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Now people say, was that because they're the real evil Klingons up there? No, because he realized just how dishonest the government he represents is.
Yes, you're exactly correct.
I say that?
That documentary kind of brought that fact into the light too. Like
Oh,
how
yeah.
badly they've bungled this whole subject from day one.
Linda would tell you I was muttering very ugly things in Russian all through that program. Okay, can I give some numbers for your
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, get your pencils out, kids. You're gonna want this. You're gonna want this. Now, some of these are older numbers, but some of these are new. Linda and I did a 20-year study, 2001 to 2020. Now, you're saying, well, what are they doing right now? No, the numbers are roughly about the same. Okay, give or take. Okay, but here's the deal. From 2001 to 2020, the United States, and I'm pulling from National UFO Reporting Center data and MUFON's data, about 60-40, about the ratio. Okay, 20 years, 167,632 reported sightings. Those are the reported ones. Let me say that again. 167,632. That amounts to about 8,382, about 8,000 a year over each year of the 20 years. That amounts to about 700 a month, 698 a month, about 121 a week, and about 23 a day. On that space, that's printed in the pink book that you can buy on Amazon right now. It's called the UFO Sightings Desk Reference. It's bright pink. You know why it's bright pink? In 2019, we were asked if Congress decides to hold hearings in 2020, which is what the smart money in DC in the activist community was saying. Okay. Would you girls be willing to come down and testify before Congress? We said, yeah, we'll suck it up and testify before Congress because we're the only ones that got the numbers. Nobody saw COVID coming. Okay. So we talked about this for a couple of days ourselves, whether or not we were comfortable with testifying. And Linda and I, as we talked about it, and said, we know what congressional hearings look like. We've been to them. We've watched them. We know how they're done. And usually these representatives in the Congress and the Senate are up there flipping through books and things like this. There aren't that many women doing stuff in the UFO community at this scale So, gee whiz, let's make sure that whatever book that guy up there, that congressman or senator is running his fingers through, let's make sure he knows it was made by a woman. So we made it bright fuchsia.
Oh, very good. I like that. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. And we dedicated it to Coral Lorenz, the first woman in the UFO community to establish a network for gathering data, the predecessor to MUFON. Okay.
I love Coral. She's
oh, God.
a true hero.
Oh, yeah. My book. Absolutely. Now, let's take this a step further with the statistics for your
wait a second. I just
ahead.
want to add something to that. 167,000 sightings over a 20-year period is what?
Yes.
Well, 1 in 100 people will report their sighting. So that means it's
that's
closer
what they,
to.
Okay, go ahead.
Closer to, let me see if I got this right, 16 million? In excess of 16 million.
Okay, that 1 in 10 people thing is what they keep telling us, right? In the UFO community. I heard that from Stanton. I heard it from everybody, right? The statistics say, this is what we can determine from statistics and polling data, which was different. In 2015, there was a poll that said that on the order of, hang on, we're pulling the number, 16.74% of adult Americans say they have seen a UFO. I didn't trust the number.
Okay.
A couple of years later, another Fox Pictures did it and got the same results. 16.74% of adult Americans. Essentially, that's about 42 million people. The number that I worked another number here from another way of doing the data, let us say 43 million people. Okay. Now, against all the numbers we had, that 167,000, that type of thing, it turned out to be 1 out of every 257 people reports what they see.
See, I've been saying, I've always said, I'm being very generous in saying it's 1 in 100. Because I always ask people, and they almost never, I've interviewed hundreds of people, maybe 5, maybe 10 have called the police or the Air Force. Most will say, what's MUFON? When I say, have you reported to MUFON?
Yeah. Well, then I used to hear people, oh, hell, when I was writing my column, I'd say something that that number, that 1 in 10 doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
But we tried it in our barbershop. Oh, we tried it in my doctor's office. I kept hearing this from people. Okay. All right. Let's take that number now, that 43 million. And get your pencils out again. You're going to want these numbers.
I've got mine ready.
Based on, we'll say, again, this 20-year study using 43 million people. Okay. That's 43,81,425 sightings. Maybe not necessarily reported.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Over a 20-year span, that's 2,154,000 per year.
Oof.
It's about 179,505 every month for 240 months of 20 years. Or it is 41,424, which is every one of the 1,040 weeks of 20 years. Or it's 59,000 daily sightings for the 7,300 days of 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now here's the last.
Got to look up that word ubiquitous.
Yes. Now here's the last one. Oh, Cheryl, they're rarer than that. They can't possibly be those numbers that big. Okay, let's take 1% of that 43,81,424. It gives us a number of 430,814. Okay. And that amounts to, based on 20 years, 21,500 per year. If I round the number off, it's not down to the fine points here, or 240 months of that 20 years, 1,795 per month. Okay. If you go to the weekly count of 1,040 weeks, 1,040 weeks, it's 414 a week. Or if you go by a daily count from the 7,300 days of 20 years, that's 59 sightings a day.
Let me ask you a question. Is this worldwide or on a grid somewhere in the U.S.?
This is the U.S.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds
Now-
right.
Now,
Okay.
I did do a number, but the numbers from overseas, you couldn't find a group like MUFON or NUFORC overseas, especially in Europe. They were all mom and pop databases, and they were all in different countries. The databases were in different languages. I had offers for some of them. Some of them were in Yugoslavian, some of them were Portuguese. Portuguese is one of the hardest languages to translate. There were some guys in France. There were some guys in England, but we couldn't lock on to decent numbers. But if you talk to some insiders, they'll tell you that we're getting about 10,000 a year globally. That number is reported on X-Files, and it's, I think, wholly wrong.
It is wrong. It's way more than that. Trust me. Way more.
You heard the numbers I said for 1 year,
Right.
8,000, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I realized this early on in my research, and it finally occurred to me at one point, like somebody is seeing a UFO right now. At any given moment, people are having an encounter. And one person's sighting is more than likely another person's onboard experience, because they're coming down and picking people up. And
Yeah.
J. Allen Hynek was quoted as saying 1 in 40 people have been on board a UFO. I heard that very early on.
That's a number similar to something we added up with some of Whitley Strieber's numbers. Yeah,
Yeah, which is
that's
very
realistic.
close to what the Roper organization found, the Roper polling organization.
One of the things I liked about the documentary where that one scientist said, because of the warp bubble, the stuff inside may be bigger inside than it was outside. And it's like Doctor Who type stuff, bigger on the inside, smaller on the outside. And that hit me between the eyes when he said, yeah, all this stuff would apply. And this whole idea of the warp bubbles, not being affected, but so it can be transmedium and all this other stuff. That's fantastic technology. But if we have back engineered, they're certainly not telling anybody.
They have back engineered, but they don't have the same technology. They're not capable of developing the same components and the same materials as they have, not even the same energy sources that they use.
They don't even have some of the exotic same metals that don't exist on our world.
That's what I'm saying, the materials. And the antigrav that they use is very rudimentary, okay? And they can't propulse the same way. And I use that word loosely because it's not really propulsion. Propulsing on ET side, it is on ours. They are propulsing with it. And so it can draw you into thinking, how is that happening? It is, they're also, I could lay out all kinds of stuff. One of these days I'm going to sit and just blab. You have no idea.
This is how I explained it to some people about 6 months ago. Okay. I said, they were sitting on my couch, and I said, think about you being here right now. I said, yeah. I said, okay, think about, and all of them have been down like Canada to Quebec or something like that. Now think about Quebec. Okay, we think about Quebec. I said, okay, that's how fast the ship was just now.
Right.
Thought drove the apparatus. And you went from here to there in an instant that it took you to
Yes,
think
less than 0.0002 seconds. That fast.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Because they're driving interdimensionally, they're not going through conventional space at all. And just from my perspective, from my experience, in my lifetime, I've probably seen more than 10,000 people on board. That's a lot of people for one person to experience with. Okay. And that's just what I did. Me alone.
Whitley said something like that too.
That's right.
He saw essentially the equivalent of examination tables with hundreds of American soldiers laying on it.
I've heard that from many contactees, actually.
Yes.
There was a guy in England who was very much like Dolly, having fully conscious contact. And he says, Preston, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think pretty much everybody is having some level of contact.
ET knows when you're born, they know who you are, they know what family you come from, and they make decisions almost instantaneously on how much they're going to interact with you.
And that's how Santa Claus does it. Because
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly correct. And it befuddles me that most people can't, draw an inference to that. Okay. I mean, it's true. It's absolutely true. And it amazes me. We are known to them. They are our progenitors. I don't use that word loosely. I mean it directly. We are absolutely related to them. Okay. And they're not letting us go by the wayside. They're not going to protect us from ourselves. They're not going to intervene in our own stupidity. We have to learn here, right? But they do watch and they interject when they can. It's like a good parent. You do what you do.
Well, okay. The way it was explained to me once was, we consider your planet a playpen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly.
Have you ever noticed when you go to a conference or something like that, you talk to people, and every now and then you'll bump into somebody that gives you a card that says, I think I met you during an examination someplace some time ago,
Yeah. I actually had that happen to me. People look at me and say, I seem to remember you somehow. It's like, oh, really? Where are you from? And they'll tell me, and I'll think, well, there's a possibility,
Can I share one touch story? When I was 14, I was up, my hometown has, I just lost my other earphone. Bear with me a moment. Our town was sort of like Rome, had multiple hills. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one day after supper, I got on my little sissy bike. I was about 14, and I rode up to this one school, which is up on one of the hills, and you overlook the valley. Lovely up there. Mm. There was also a concrete reservoir up there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So imagine something as big around as an Olympics pool that was probably 3 stories, 5 stories deep. Okay. So if you stood up on top of it and you had one of those nice Lafayette walkie-talkies, right? You get up there and you can hit every base station in town because you're higher than they are, right?
Right.
And many years later, I'll go back to that momentarily. Many years later, when I was watching E.T., the extraterrestrial, for the first time, and they started playing these notes, mm-hmm. I broke into a cold sweat. My spouse of that era said, "What is wrong? Are you sick?" And I said, "Well, I'll talk to you after the movies." Because when a bunch of us that were ham operators were hearing these tones on different times of the day on different frequency bands. AM, FM, shortwave. We were hearing it on everything. Didn't sound like it was in the movie, but you get the idea. It was this like a 5 to 7 tone sequence. Mm-hmm. I'm up there on this reservoir, and I'm talking to a friend of mine down in the valley, and all of a sudden I'm hearing these tones, and they're getting louder and louder and louder, and I can't hear them. I can't hear my friend talking on the radio. It's just screaming in the walkie-talkie, and this is about 6:30 at night in August, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in one of those cloth chair swings.
Yes.
This reservoir is next to a elementary school of that era. Okay. And I'm sitting in one of those cloth chairs. It's 11:30 at night on my watch. My bicycle is laying in front of me on the ground. And I'm sitting there saying, how did I get here? Okay. Now, never was able to make any more connection to it than that. Until a few years ago, let's say about 15 years ago, I had to be hypnotized in a psychiatric context because, again, I got this PTSD monster, right? And what I remembered afterwards was they took this thing that looked like a chrome, it was a tube that had it just wrapped around the end. It looked like a cigar, an aluminum cigar is what it looked like. And 14-year-old boy me, they touched it to my male parts, and they took sperm. God, I don't believe I just told 1 million people this. But they did this. Well, that's when I remembered this about 15, 20 years ago. Okay. And if anything, it's made me sweat at all over the years. So I've had my DNA done on Ancestry.
Mhm.
I am dreading the day that somebody reaches out to Cheryl Costa and tells me that they've got a match to my male father alleles. You know, if you follow my drift, if you watch the forensic version, you'll understand what that is. And that has been something that has haunted me for the last 10 or 15, closer to 20 years now.
Wow.
It has haunted me. It's that the way they do interbreeding, you know, that might show up someplace, you know, but it hasn't. So I'm not really sweating it. They're touching plenty of other people, believe me. So, you know, I'm not worried about it.
I'm going to be really honest with you about something. I have never said this to the public before, and I'm going to say it right now. One of the reasons that they've brought DNA from us, you know, genetic material from our ovaries and from our, you know, gonads as testes, is that they were looking to preserve our DNA before things got really bad. Okay? That they knew what we were going to face.
The scale of contamination in the biosphere right now is the worst that it's been.
Right, and they've been collecting for a while for that reason. It has nothing so much to do with breeding programs as preserving who we are. And most of our most of our DNA has already been brought out. Everybody on this planet, your pristine DNA, you know, before you're toxified and messed up, is already out, and it's preserved. People who are a billion years in advance of you are capable of things that you have no idea. And if they want to preserve humanity, they're going to do it. And they're going to do it in a scientific way. We are all consciousness. We all recycle. This body is nothing to us except that it's a receptacle where we indwell while we're here. All over the universe, it's like that. But if they
it's the Volkswagen we drive in. Yeah,
exactly. So if you want a pristine make of this body, you have to have it when it's pristine and not messed up, toxified, and all that other kind of crap. You can come back to anything and be repopulated somewhere else through that process. Just saying, you can actually choose to come back to your own DNA from before. It's complicated and there's a lot to it, but that's possible. So that's what they've been doing, period. They are not trying to breed better human beings. They're not trying to breed us back into them, except that we are related. No experiments.
See, I would like to bring up a comment, because this is a gentleman who's put this on, and he's actually mentioning me in a way that I believe is inaccurate. And I know this show is about you, Cheryl, but this needs to be addressed.
Please.
Because he's talking about how I'm painting the UFO phenomena in rosy light. He says, I don't blame anyone out there in the light and positive fraction. I'm sad that Preston is the one who really knows it better but denies it. So that is an inaccurate representation of what I'm doing, because I am putting out cases in a fact-based manner. I am not cherry picking or shoe fitting, and I'm not painting this in a rosy light. I'm objectively studying the onboard experience. And I'd love for you both to comment on this, because what I've found when people are taken on board is, yes, it's very scary. It is often scary and sometimes traumatic for people, and can cause actual PTSD, nightmares, people, insomnia, and so forth. And there's a faction of people who feel like this was involuntary. But as time goes on and people have repeated encounters, they start to realize, I did agree to this. They start to realize that this was absolutely to my benefit. And if you take a close look, objectively, not through the lens of fear, at what happens, the sequence of events that happens when people are taken on board, yes, they're physically examined. And this is often about healing. And this is demonstrably true. Every single major researcher out there, almost without exception, has these kinds of cases. They will take you down to the engine room and explain how the craft works. They're imparting knowledge.
They'll let you put your hand on the big silver ball and
yes, they will.
Yes.
They will talk to you about your personal life.
Yeah.
They will give warnings about the dangers of nuclear proliferation, war and aggression, greed and corruption. They will make steps to absolute elevate your awareness in terms of psychic abilities. They let people know that we share a common heritage. These are all good things. Yes, it's very scary for people. Yes, it's difficult to process, but there's no good evidence that they are here to hurt us, harm us, take over, or anything like this. So I really want you, Mel, and everyone out there to do your own research. Look at the cases I've presented. Look at every contactee out there. Don't look to our governments who are painting this in a fear-based way. I'm not of a love and light faction. I'm of truth. I'm trying to be very objective here. Very objective.
Yeah.
So I absolutely sympathize with people because the disinformation and fear surrounding this subject is horrendous. There are my labs.
Agreed.
As well.
You know, I've had people come up to me, either wrote me at the column I wrote or come up to me at a conference and said, oh, they're going to come here and invade us. And they said, go look up the UFO battle over Nuremberg, Germany in 1561 in April. Okay. They could have done it then. Somebody's looking out for us. Somebody's playing nanny for us here. Okay. We're protected. Okay. So, I mean, that's the thing you got to keep in mind. There's a benevolent group up there, and then there probably are some nasties up there. There are nasties everywhere, but the bottom line is I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt because any experience I have had with them has been of the most positive kind. Yes, I scared the snot out of me the first couple of times. But then again, I was scared the first time I got in my father's car and had to put it in gear.
Oh, yeah. Or go to the doctor and have him shove a needle, in a place you don't want him to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is ridiculous. I would like y'all to consider something. There are other places in the universe, and I'm using the word universe for a reason, not just our galaxy, but the universe, that are just like us at the same level that we're at, or somewhere close to that, just before, just after. And they aren't leaving their planet right now either. They're not going anywhere. They are a problem to themselves, and they know it, but the evolution is not of the body or the society, it's of the self. You didn't come here to be an evolution with everybody. You came here to train yourself to evolve. And that's like that all over the universe. And so if you have stinking thinking, like a lot of people here do, and you're violent or punitive or paranoid or fearful or angry or abusive, you need to look at yourself first. Quit blaming everybody else and quit blaming everybody why you're paranoid or afraid. You have to genuinely seek out for yourself why, and work on you. If everybody did that, we'd be a whole hell of a lot better off on this planet, because it comes from us singularly as well as in groups. And it starts here with you alone, you. And I wish you would listen to some of the things that contactees are telling you, because it's exactly what I'm telling you right now. We have a chance here to elevate ourselves, but we can't do it as a group. It's an individual thing. We can come together as a group in consensus after we do it, but it still starts with you. You have to do the work. You do. And I want you to think about that. Okay, enough said.
Can I add to it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I am an ordained Buddhist yogini. Now that may sound exalted, New Age. No,
Yeah,
I had a Tibetan Lama pick me out of a crowd of 250 people and say, I know you. Okay. And that led to me, one, living in a Buddhist monastery for 7 years. Okay. The buzz cut, the shaved head, the robes. I kept my job at Lockheed. I worked at Lockheed Martin headquarters every day for 7 years, just like the Dalai Lama. Okay, push the DEI policy to the bleeding edge. Me and a lady from someplace in the Middle East with her burqa and everything. But that's the deal. But the bottom line is this: if I learned anything when I was in the monastery, first thing, Hollywood seems to paint you that when your soul comes out of your body, it's like a picture perfect version of yourself, except unsubstantial, and you think of it like a single thing. No. The universe, and I'm talking universe bigger than galaxies, aspect of the universe, not the universe, just our galaxies. And The universe is bigger than that. We are the universe. We are connected. Our essence, our spark, our God spark, whatever you want to call it, is connected to everything, everywhere, every when. You are connected to every sentient being, everywhere, every when.
All consciousness, yes.
All cognizance. Now, here we go. Go with that a step further. Oh, by the way, the essence that's more or less you can be living in multiple times, in multiple places, on multiple worlds simultaneously. So if you have weird dreams that someplace you've got wings and you can fly, they can on that world, okay? That's where your dreams are coming from. You're connecting to other aspects on that streaming channel in your soul.
Right.
That's the only way I can explain it. My mamas love it when I present it that way.
Yeah. Different. Like if you change, you make a decision here and you change your mind about something and you go a different direction, that's not you taking a different timeline. That's you taking a path here. Absolutely. And I want to get nitty gritty with this. We're all in soul together everywhere in the universe all at the same time. Okay. I refer to it as source. It's not a pool in the middle of everything. It's everything all at once. Okay. Yes. That's what source is. And you can be anywhere from source, projecting out here, there, and everywhere, doing all kinds of things at once, because that's how your consciousness works. Okay. They aren't different timelines. You're not changing anything. You're learning for yourself, because funny thing, when you're out of the body, when you're in source, you know everything, everywhere, all the time. We come to be physical beings because we are learning to have wisdom about it. You could be an educated idiot, all you want in source all day long, but source or consciousness understands that we have to learn to employ all knowledge, and you can do that physically really, really well. So there are tons of places in the universe where you can go to live a physical life, to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, so that you elevate and you go, you make changes. You, like a brain, the synapses are changing. They're getting stronger or they're getting weaker. Take your pick. You're part of that. Only you're singularly yourself at the same time. You're an impulse in all of this. And I don't understand why people can't figure that out. Why are you so closed in your own mind? Why are you doing things to yourself that exclude you from knowing the truth about everything? And all you have to do is tap into who you are, your consciousness, and let it out. And you'll know, you'll start learning, and it'll help you re-employ the knowledge that you need to employ while you're here, and elevate yourself up through this. There are dimensional realities, different dimensional, like we're all living in 12 dimensions at the same time, okay? We're all in source in 12 dimensions. We're physically in the third dimension right now, but that doesn't mean you can't live in another dimension as well. But you don't get to go to those until you manage this one. That's why people recycle here. I'm sick of people saying, oh, you're not going to escape Earth. Yes, you are. You're not promised to live here all. You don't have to, it's not a jail.
It's not a prison planet.
No, it is not. It is, you can live anywhere you want at any time you want. But you have to make it through to understand. I was told once by a fifth dimensional being, who I asked point blank, straight on him, how come I can't go where you go? Why can't I attain that knowledge here? And he said, because you're not ready. You don't have the knowledge or the wisdom. You don't have the technical knowledge. You don't have the moral knowledge. You don't have the spiritual knowledge. You don't have all of that which you need to migrate out into the next dimensions. And he said, once you do, then, and you know as much as I do, you'd be where I am. And I said, well, where are you going next? And he said, outwards. And I said, what do you do when you graduate and you get out through all 12 of them? And he said, that's a good question. And I've been pondering that one, and it like motivates me to want to go there. It's like, oh, it's
kind of hard for people to wake up. That's kind of how I look at it. When you wake up in the morning, like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to wake up, because it's a painful process going through.
Oh, well, we weren't promised a rose garden here, folks. We really
once you wake up, then you have a really good time and you have a great day. That's what I think gaining wisdom is all about.
Yeah, and you can do it while being in joy, right, Cheryl?
Yeah.
That's the most important part. You can still be in joy while you're doing all this stuff. It's hard, but it's joyous.
Right. my Lama, a couple of years ago, we lost track of each other for about 7 years. I moved to Ohio, and and he's things in his order changed a bit, so we were just always missing each other. Okay, and then I bumped into a Buddhist nun from a different lineage, and I said, "By the way, have you ever heard of?" And I gave him the name of my Lama. And he said, "Oh, goodness gracious, he's got a temple he visits 3 times a year, 30 minutes down the road from you." I said, "What?" Wow, cool. So okay, so one point he had me stand up in front of his students, and I'm trying to find here it is. There it is. Okay. This is the talk that I gave them.
Okay.
They give me, and I'm just going to read a part of it here. Okay, hang on to your seats. Okay. Again, my earphones. Bear with me a moment here. Okay. Okay. My true nature is immortal. I am part of everything, everywhere, every when. I've had millions of lifetimes and been called by an equal number of names. Yet I have no name. I am the immortal spirit essence within. As such, I have been in every manner of insect and creeping animal, every sort of predator and prey. When each mortal life ends, there is a time of rest and reflection, and finally, I got to move the page in so I can read it. There it is. Okay. There's a time of there's a time of rest, a time to meet people you're familiar with. Think of it like being on the same tour bus. We all end up back in the same spot, and they can't move the bus until you come back. Okay? All right. So in this world, I've lived across the ages in the past. I have been every manner of human being. I have been one of countless beings who have walked the savannas of Africa or walked the Silk Road into Asia. I have fought in battles with Spartan warriors. I have marched with Roman legions to victory, sometimes to defeat, and sometimes death. I've experienced being devoured by animals, dying from plagues, childbirth, murder, explosions, battles, and many other circumstances. I can't count how many times I have died as a youngster or as an old age person, and as well as an infirmed ancient. Okay, one more thing here. Okay, ancient. Okay. How many times I have been blown overboard from a Greek merchant ship. Okay. Each time back into the presence with thoughts, not words, that sometimes amount to, "Oh my, wow, ouch," and the occasional, "Wow, what a ride."
Yeah.
Okay. Usually I am met by those who have passed before me. Sometimes I arrive first and wait for my friends to join me in the presence. In this life, I have received a profound psychic gift. Likewise, I have remembered the light details of nearly 100 of my past lifetimes, 30 or 40 of them with strong remembrances. I remember the fragments of other lifetimes where I lived as an ordinary person whose names are lost to history. Okay, this is the deal.
Right.
We just keep coming back until we get it. It's like the coach used to say in high school, keep running that play till you get it right.
That's
Become a little more enlightened each time.
That's right. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. And we're not supposed to be burdened by this. This is where joy comes from. It's a joy, should be a joy to do this.
Yes.
You know?
The Lama who picked me out of a crowd walked up to me. I was 6-7 years after I changed genders. So I was dressed Miss Corporate Success, big hair, big makeup, big nails, big heels, and he walks up and shakes hands. He's a little 5'0" guy. He shakes hands with me and he won't let go and goes into a European handshake with both hands. And he says, I know you. I said, Holiness, I've not met you in this lifetime. He said, oh no, 2, 3, 4 times. Past 400 years, I've worked with you before. And he looks at my gal buddy, another high priestess. I know you too. And he said, these two, they always hang out together lifetime after lifetime. Nice to see you again. And he toddles off, right? When I sat down with him in a private audience about a week later, he says, what were you raised in this lifetime? I said, well, I was raised Roman Catholic. Oh, still Roman Catholic? No. I run with the Wiccan shamans, not these days. Oh, still doing the yogi stuff, huh? I said, yogi, sorceress stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, you mean I've done this before? He said, are you good at it? And I said, I'm really good at it. I teach it. He says, huh, you think you learned it all in one lifetime? Okay. So, okay. That's when I met him in 97. Okay. When I saw him here about a year ago, we were talking and he says, so tell me about some of the other lives, the ones he most recently touched. He says, well, I remember touching you in Bhutan. He says, I remember touching you again in Tibet. I remember touching you again in Korea. And the nun that's up in Vancouver, Ani so-and-so, he says, yeah. He says, her and I were in the same geisha house in Yokosuka, Japan in the late 19th century.
Oh, goodness. Well, how goes that ask? Yeah.
Okay. Remember, I said the people on the bus,
You guys, we're actually out of time.
I know we are.
Cheryl, stay on after we sign off. Ask you. Okay.
By the way, your fans love to see you. You're all wonderful folks.
You're coming back. You're going to promise to come back again, yes? Okay.
Yes. Anytime.
More of the same. Okay. Preston, what do you want to say real quick?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to all the lovely people who came to watch the show. Thank you so much, especially you guys who were able to donate Namaste and Cherise Bazilla into the future. We really appreciate you guys, the Owl Man, and all the wonderful all of you who joined us. Even if you disagree with some of what we're saying, absolutely, I understand that.
We'll look it up. Have a little open-mindedness, look it up, and then decide. Don't make any decisions off the cuff. That's all we ask. So. All
right, yeah, but we have a show coming up after ours, so we cannot go over.
That's right. Thank you all for coming to the Lightgate from this beautiful first night in December. I get it right this time. Coming from New Orleans, live from the UPRN network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. We love you all very much. Please, peace to you all. Go in peace. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
Das Vidania.
Das Vidania.